You're watching News Central now on News Central TV. I am Judith Atibi. The top stories this hour. NYMET predicts 3-day thunderstorm rains as workers stranded in Lagos following early morning downpour. Newly constructed 2-story building collapses in Lagos. Tunisian authorities issue decree for presidential elections in October. Details shortly. And News Central begins at this hour in Nigeria, where the Nigeria Meteorological Agency has predicted thunderstorm and rains from Wednesday to Friday across the country. NYMET's weather outlook released in Abuja predicted morning thunderstorms on Wednesday over parts of Jigawa, Kano, Katsina, Sokoto, Kebbi, Zamfara, Taraba, and Adamawa states. Thunderstorms are expected over parts of the Federal Capital Territory, Kwara, Kogi, Plateau, Benue, and Niger states in the north central in the morning. Later in the day, thunderstorms are expected over parts of Plateau, Nasarawa, Niger, Kogi, Kwara, the Federal Capital, and Benue states. According to NYMET, morning rains are expected over parts of Lagos, Ondo, Delta, Ogun, Abia, Rivers, Edo, Akwa Ibom, and Cross River states in the southern region. It is expected high prospects of continuous rains for Lagos, which might lead to flooding. Now, meanwhile, heavy rainfall in Lagos caused several flooding in various parts of the city on Wednesday morning, leading to significant traffic jams. News Central's correspondent Bernard Akade shared some videos showing cars submerged in floods around Iyanoworo, Olokpomeji area, heading towards the third mainland bridge. The floods have caused significant traffic, which extends to Alakbere and beyond. Other videos have since surfaced on social media showing areas like Iyanoiba, Lekki, Agege, Victoria Island, among others, also experiencing flooding. The Lagos State government is expected or is determined to tackle the flooding, particularly along the Lekki-Ekpe Expressway in Etiosa local government area. They plan to construct a larger collector along this axis and other identified areas to bring relief to residents. Last month, the Commissioner for the Environment and Water Resources, Tokunbo Wahab, highlighted the construction of a new collector at Agungi Road as a key intervention to prevent the perennial flooding issues in the area.
The rain has caused this morning. There's a lot of flood here and people are trying to navigate their way into work. But if you can see behind me too, this intersection here, we also have LASMA officials who are still doing their job diligently, even under the rain. We can see the truck behind me, the trailer, and the kind of chaos that it's causing for motorists around that region. That's where I am currently. Earlier before now, the video you saw was of the flood at Olokpomeji, Iyanoworo, and it caused traffic from that point on all the way back to Alakbere. So Lagos today is not having a very, very good morning, if I may say so. There's loads of floods around Lagos. We also have information that there's also a situation of flood at Shokodu in Lagos State as well. I haven't even talked about the island because I'm very sure that by now all of Lekki down to the stretch of Abuja will also be subject to floods. But the question now on the table is, what is the government doing about it? Even though we've seen some areas on the island where clearing of canals and gutters have begun, which is a little bit helping the flood situation, but we still think that more needs to be done, and fast as well before.
And that was our correspondent Bettina Unweli giving updates earlier on the bulletin there, just updates on the rainfall and the downpour and the flooded area around the mainland axis and some as well on the island. We're going to have her later on this course of the bulletin to give us more updates. In the meantime, still in Lagos State, a 2-story building has collapsed at 12 Cameroon Street off Ewelia, Mushin in Lagos. According to Dr. Olufemi Damilola Okesan-Yitolu, the Permanent Secretary, Lagos State Emergency Management Agency, the building was newly constructed. Now, 7 people, 3 females and 4 males, were rescued alive and taken to a nearby hospital for treatment. The agency's search and rescue team has searched the rubble and can confirm that there is no victim underneath the collapsed building. The area has now been cordoned off. We also understand that operation is still ongoing at the site. And still on building collapse, in a related development, the Federal Capital Territory Emergency Management Agency has confirmed that no life was lost in the building collapse, which occurred on Monday evening in the Garki area of Abuja. The acting Director-General of the agency says the four-story building was undergoing renovation at the time of the incident, which recorded minor injuries sustained by 3 workers who have subsequently been treated. News Center's Imano Bogudu reports.
The spokesperson of the FCT Police Command on site of the building collapse with other security and emergency agencies as they rescue several trapped under the debris of the collapsed 4-story building in Abuja. Among the rescued victims, only 3 were injured. Although they appeared to still be in shock, some were able to give account of the incident.
Around 8 o'clock, we did level 4. So that time we did cook with gas. We did cook something for fire now. So now the thing question. So now this my brother can say what did happen for us? Now I tell us I don't know. Now you go look at in the low the thing in the form. Now my brother say, more run, this is the follow. Now my brother can jump for that level 4. You jump for that, you follow top. Now if you must have follow, now you can follow that. I don't know what thing they think will happen now.
Just 5 persons were in the building, and we were able to rescue those 3. Then NEMA were informed, and the development control as well. They came in that night, and search party continued. As you can see, we are still searching for possible if there are any other persons, but from what the other victims said, there were just 5 of them in the building.
Officials of the Federal Capital Emergency Management Agency blame the contractor for ignoring directives from the Abuja Development Control Authority to stop work on the building.
As soon as we noticed what happened, we swung into action and we were able to rescue 3 people alive. They only sustained minor injuries, some bruises, and we took them to the hospital. They are all out of the hospital. In actual sense, they didn't spend up to 2 hours in the hospital, and they were back to the site. All other construction workers were out of the building when the building collapsed. Development control always mark the building and ask them to stop. But there are times that when we wake up in the morning, overnight, they continue with the work. If you were here before we brought down the fence, you would have seen the mark of development control.
The agency expressed its determination to clamp down on violators of construction code in the capital city. In Abuja for News Central, I am Emmanuel Bagudu.
Nigeria's House of Representatives says it has identified a total of 1,310 ministries, departments, and agencies of government which needs to be scrapped or merged to resolve issues of duplication of functions and inefficiency. Now, this was made known by the chairman of the House Special Committee on Restructuring of Government Agencies and Commissions. Idong Joseph reports.
The recent announcement by the federal government to implement the Stephen Oronsaye report, expected to reduce the cost of governance, has recently generated diverse reactions. The report, which was published in 2012, highlighted several recommendations aimed at restructuring government agencies to enhance efficiency and reduce costs.
The fact that the Oronsaye report has been approved and adopted by Council today does not mean that people will lose their jobs. All those who are employed, whether they have been moved, subsumed, or scrapped, will find accommodation within relevant government agencies. Nobody is going to lose his job.
Mr. Speaker, I seek the leave of the House.
Nigeria's parliament has joined the conversation, saying it is important to revisit the recommendations as well as other white papers to ensure they align with current realities and changing needs of society.
The world is evolving rapidly, and it is crucial that our government agencies and commissions are structured in a way that enables them to deliver on their mandates effectively and efficiently. Through this review process, we aim to identify redundancies, duplications, inefficiencies, and areas of improvement within the federal government agencies and commissions.
Lawmakers say they will conduct a thorough review and called on stakeholders to engage with the Parliament to make inputs that will improve the process.
And we are now open to taking memoranda from all concerned ministries, individuals, departments, agencies, parastatals, and everyone.
They add that the essence of the review is to ensure that the report, which was received by the federal government about 12 years ago, when implemented, will meet current realities. In Abuja for News Central, I am Idonk Joseph.
And now to discuss this, we're joined by Chairman, African Democratic Congress, Lagos State, and that's George Ashiru. George, thank you so much for coming on. Now, this Orosanye's report is estimated, it has estimated potential cost savings. Now, the question is, can the committee quantify the expected financial benefits of implementing the report's recommendations in today's economic climate?
Thank you for having me this morning. And I would say that with all certainty, reforms are completely necessary in the federal civil service and in the state civil services. And that's the reason why this report is very critical. And the implementation of that report, even though it's 12 years down the line, is even more important right now. And there will be savings, and all that needs to do is to go into the budget and the allocations of each of these agencies and begin to do a line-by-line review. And you will find duplications across quite a lot of them. And that's where you begin to remove some cost here and cost there, cost here and cost there, and will not even affect payroll. So I think it's a good and necessary step at this juncture where we need to save money and we need to put the money back in development.
I mean, everyone keeps saying, save and save and save and put it back into the government. But people have all of the opinion that there's still going to be, a potential cost to this in terms of, increases, cost increases in implementing this, such as severance packages and restraining and all of that, or retraining of staff. What would you say to that?
When you re-engineer any entity, there are capital costs. It's just like starting a business. There's a startup expense before you begin to get any revenues. But the bottom line is that you look ahead, you look forward to the savings you get in the long run. So in the long run, could be 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, we may save 200 billion a year, 300 billion a year, but we're going to spend 1 trillion now. But that makes a lot of sense because once the savings start, they continue forever. So I am completely of the opinion that there will be cost implications for any form of re-engineering of any form of entity, especially the public service of Nigeria. But it must be done, and it should be done right now, because then we will get the efficiency we're looking for. Because the bottom line is efficiency, and efficiency is of doing business, is of establishing businesses, and the benefits to the electorate and to the citizens is really what we're after. We don't want a heavy-duty public service that costs us money, and we don't get any benefit from it. So let us get benefits, even though we're going to put in a little bit of initial cost right now to get the restructuring done.
Right. But the argument needs to be made that merging and, restructuring agencies can be disruptive, to staff overall. So does the committee do you think they have a plan, or should they have a plan to address potential workforce concerns during implementation, such as, job security or redeployment or even retraining needs?
Now, this is my concern. My concern is that the government cannot restructure itself. So what it means is that this is the juncture that the government should begin to bring experts from the professional field, from various professional institutions to assist, the records management organizations, the archiving organizations, the data management organizations, the human resources management organizations to come in and assist the government to implement this. Then you will get the right kind of efficiency, the sort that you get in corporate sector. But if it's just the same people restructuring themselves, they're going to build into it the same kind of structural deficiencies which has really been what we have been complaining about as citizens in this country for the decades that we have existed as a country. So I don't think there's a problem in disruption. More important, what is more important is that the right kind of assets and the right kind of professionalism is brought into the process and is done in a way that guarantees the result we're looking for.
I think the buzzword here is efficiency and effectiveness, right? And the report proposes, merging 29 agencies. But how would the committee assess the effectiveness of merging this or putting together these mergers in achieving cost reduction and improved service delivery in the long term? What would be the metrics to put in place to track progress?
Well, performance management systems have already existed for things like this. I mean, when you set up an overall strategic map for an organization, then you cascade the various KPIs or what they call OKRs all the way down to the lowest person down the rung of the ladder. So that's why, again, I said you must bring professionals who understand this to be able to implement it. They will be able to put in the data in the appropriate spreadsheets, and you will see the difference in the savings that you're going to get in implementing this, if you implement it in the correct way and in the correct timeline with the right kind of investment. So I really don't see any problem with this. You see, when companies buy into each other, this sort of thing happens. So when you hear that Olam bought Dangote flour mills or bought Boa flour mills or Honeywell bought this one bought that one, this is the same sort of things that you get. And yet these organizations find a way, to merge all these talents. There may not even be severance packages, as Mr. George Akume has said, if nobody is being sacked, except they want to live on their own. And so really what we just need is a professionalism that is applied to the implementation of the restructuring that is being planned. Once that is lost, then it's going to be garbage in, garbage out.
George, many thanks for coming on. I appreciate you for doing this with us. And that's George Ashiro. He is the chairman, African Democratic Congress, Lagos State. We're going to show a break right here on News Central TV. We'll be back. This is News Central Now. Stay with us. Hey, welcome back. We'll continue with security matters. The Ogun State Police Command says 4 abducted travelers on the Shagamu-Ijebu-Ode expressway on Sunday have regained freedom. The spokesman for the state command, Omolola Oduntola, disclosed this in a statement on Wednesday. Oduntola said those rescued along Ogeri axis of the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway by the anti-kidnapping team of the State Police Command included a Nigerian and 3 Indians. On Monday, Commissioner of Police Abiodun Alamutu ordered the anti-kidnapping unit to launch a manhunt against the hoodlums who kidnapped and attacked the travelers. The gunmen were said to have ambushed the travelers between Shagamu Area Command of the Nigeria Police and Ilasa Township. And move away from that now and on to the oil and gas sector. The Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited says it has declared a state of emergency on oil production. It said the move was geared towards increasing Nigeria's crude oil production and growing its reserves. The Group Chief Executive Officer of NNPCL, Mele Kyari, disclosed this in a keynote address at the opening of the 23rd edition of the Nigeria Oil and Gas Conference and Exhibition Week in Abuja on Tuesday. Now, according to Kyari, a detailed analysis of assets revealed that Nigeria could conveniently produce 2 million barrels of crude oil per day without deploying new rigs. He adds that the war will help NNPCL and its partners to speedily clear all identified obstacles to effective and efficient production, such as delays in procurement processes, which have become a challenge in the industry. Petroleum marketers fear that petrol from Dangote Petrochemical Refinery may be priced higher than expected when it hits the market in 2 to 3 weeks. The refinery, with a 650,000 capacity, has struggled to source feedstock locally from international oil companies, forcing it to import crude oil from the U.S. and other countries at a higher cost. Now, this has made its diesel and aviation fuel less attractive to local marketers. Now, concerns were raised that the high import cost would increase production cost, potentially hiking the ex-depot price of Dangote PMS. Now, the company announced that the petrol would be available to the Nigerian market by the 3rd week of July. Earlier, Temitope Kolade, Senior Manager and Lead ESG and Climate Change Services at Anderson, spoke to us on this development. Take a look.
Okay, apparently it's going to be some sort of significant cost for Dangote refineries. Apparently, getting crude locally, it's a better option for them because it should ordinarily take care of things around logistics costs and other ancillary costs from moving things from one point to the other, and imports also. So indeed, it's something that one will think that we are in the midst of plenty and we shouldn't be going out there to import crude for refining in Nigeria. Conversations with the NUPRC, for instance, they're having conversations with the industry groups to ensure that they're able to get crude locally, and that's really the better option, right? It's one of two things, really. It's either you're importing crude or you're getting locally. So conversations are ongoing from what I've picked from here and there, and expectedly, if they're able to source crude locally, it would help to, manage the cost of production, and then they should be able to give refined products at competitive prices compared to importing from outside of Nigeria.
The European Union has announced plans to strengthen economic ties with Nigeria and attract new investments through a Sustainable Investment Facilitation Agreement. Now, this was made known by the European Union Ambassador to Nigeria and the ECOWAS, Samuela Isipi, at the 9th edition of the Nigeria-EU Business Forum in Abuja. News Center's Joshua Imarai has more on this.
The 9th Nigeria-EU Business Forum, themed Investing in Jobs and a Sustainable Future, took place in Abuja, the nation's capital. The forum brought together prominent business leaders and industry experts. The representative of Nigeria's Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment urged participants to capitalize on the opportunity to identify solutions to the challenges facing the country's trade and investment sector.
It is imperative that we work towards addressing challenges and identifying innovative solutions to enhance the business environment. By leveraging on each other's strengths and fostering mutual cooperation, we can unlock new opportunities for trade and investment that will benefit our countries, our economies, and the livelihoods of our people.
Also in attendance was the European Union Ambassador to Nigeria and ECOWAS, who announced the EU's plan to improve economic relationship with Nigeria and bring in new investments.
And we are developing several training and fellowship programs and supporting private sector developments, in particular tech enterprises, via easing access to finance. All this is done in a Team Europe manner with the EIB, with other banks from the European Union.
Stakeholders at the event urged the federal government to implement policies that will attract foreign direct investment into the nation's economy.
So what we need to do is to ensure that we put policies in place that will motivate capital holders to feel confident in investing in our economy.
If anybody is interested in foreign direct investment, you have to start with NACIMA, because we are also part of the network of 177 chambers of commerce in the World Chamber of Commerce Conference. And that is why most times, and unfortunately, when our public officers travel, instead of going with the private sector, they go as government officials. The government does not do business.
The European Union Ambassador to Nigeria and ECOWAS also commended Nigeria for paying off the backlog of debts owed to European airlines to the tune of about $850 million. In Abuja for News Central, I am Joshua Imarai.
In the meantime, the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, has flagged off the construction of the Kugbo bus terminal in Abuja. Now, the minister says that the project will be completed in 15 months and assured all present that the project will not adorn the landscape as an abandoned project, because the funds for the project have already been set aside. He adds that the project is proof of the federal government's commitment to ensure that citizens have access to the best and most modern of infrastructure. Amadin Uyi reports. We'll We'll bring you that report. In the meantime, we continue this time on security matters. Now, the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Jide Idris, has reiterated his dedication and commitment to continually transform and improve the Nigerian Army for improved security of both lives and property, as well as defend existential threat. Now, the Army boss was speaking in Jos, the Plateau State capital, north-central Nigeria, now during his courtesy call on the governor, as activities commence for the Nigerian Army Day celebration to be hosted by the 3-Division Maxwell Kobe Cantonment, Jos. News Center's Chizoba Anyonwe tells us more.
The Nigerian Army, since inception, will turn 161 years come Saturday, July 6, 2024. It is on this premise that Nigeria's Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Jide Idris, is on the plateau to commence activities heralding the event. Upon his arrival, he paid a courtesy visit on Governor Caleb Mutfwang, where he thanked him for his support to the Army formation in the state under the leadership of the General Officer Commanding 3 Armored Division and Commander Operation Safe Haven, Major General Abdulsalam Abubakar. He reassured more security on the plateau with the deployment of both kinetic and non-kinetic approaches.
Your Excellency, I believe that the platform of the NASEC 2024, which has afforded us the opportunity to bring a large number of Nigerian Army personnel and our equipment to Plateau, we go a long way to cement the friendship, the understanding, and the cordial relationship that exists between the Nigerian Army, the government, and the good people of Plateau State.
The governor is optimistic that the relationship established between the state and the military will yield greater results.
On behalf of the people of Plateau State, I'd like to say a big thank you for the role the Army and other sister agencies have played in ensuring that the security situation on the plateau today is better than where we met it in 2023. I want to celebrate your leadership, that of the GOC, who also carried on from where his predecessors left. And we've seen the deployment of professionalism in carrying out the mandate of the Army.
Lieutenant General Idris was also at the palace of the chairman of the Plateau State Council of Chiefs and Emirs.
General, that we sincerely appreciate your men here on the plateau that have fought to ensure that we are enjoying the relative peace we are enjoying now. It is not yet over, but by the grace of God, we know that you will accomplish what you have started.
According to the Army boss, coming days will witness more activities of the Nigerian Army as they mark the annual event on the plateau. In Jos for News Central, Chizoba Anyonwe.
Watching news now on News Central TV. Still coming up, Tunisia issues decree for polls in October 2024. We'll bring you details after the break. Join us again. And welcome back. The news continues in West Africa, where provincial authority officials say at least more than 20 civilians were killed in an attack in central Mali on Monday that was attributed to terrorists. These deaths are the most recent in the volatile Sahel area. Now, according to an official speaking on condition of anonymity on Wednesday in the village of Jibobombi, a few dozen kilometers from the town of Bandi Agara, at least 21 civilians have died. And on to East Africa, when Kenyan police have arrested more than 270 people masquerading as protesters who were suspected of going on a criminal rampage during anti-government rallies on Tuesday. Now, this comes after a widespread looting and property damage was reported during the youth-led demonstrations in various cities across the East African country, which some protesters said had been infiltrated by hoodlums. Now, the Directorate of the Criminal Investigations, in a statement, said security forces across the country singled out suspects found engaging in criminal activities in the guise of protesting and took them into custody. And we head now to North Africa, where the office of President Kais Saied announced Tuesday that Tunisia will hold a presidential election on October 6. Now, Saied took full control of the country in 2021, ruling by decree after dismissing his prime minister and parliament, with many of his opponents now behind bars. He had a new constitution approved by a referendum in 2002, or rather 2022, that created a presidential system with a parliament that has only limited powers. In a statement, a decree issued, the president summoned voters for a presidential election on Sunday, October 6, 2024. The president has not yet indicated if he will seek a new 5-year term after his 2019 election. And still on elections, 3 political parties, including the National Democratic Rally, the National Liberation Front, and the Future Front, have called for Algeria's president to run for a second term. Now, with 2 months to go before the presidential election scheduled for September 7th, 2024, the president has not yet revealed his intention to seek re-election.
ستقوم بناء لما قامت به هذه الأحزاب من توجيه دعوة إلى السيد الرئيس للترشح لعهدة ثانية. هذه الندوة ستتوج بتوجيه نداء أو التماس أو مناشدة للسيد الرئيس الجمهورية لكي يترشح للانتخابات الرئاسية المزمع تنظيمها إن شاء الله في 7 سبتمبر المقبل.
Where a catastrophic stampede at a religious event in northern India has left at least 121 people dead. The incident has been attributed by authorities to severe congestion, a lack of exits, and other circumstances. A local official said 5 more people died on Wednesday morning and 28 were still being treated in the hospital. The stampede happened on Tuesday in a village in Hathras district in Uttar Pradesh state as large crowds rushed to exit a makeshift tent. It was not immediately clear what sparked the panic. However, authorities are investigating what happened and have launched a search for a Hindu guru locally known as Bule Baba, as well as other organizers. In the UK general election, it is not uncommon to see candidates with diverse backgrounds, including British Nigerians. Now, British Nigerian candidates bring a unique perspective and experience to the political landscape, contributing to a more diverse and representative government. Now, their participation in the election process highlights the importance of inclusion and equal representation in democratic societies. For News Central, Afia Hagen has been speaking to 2 candidates reflecting the changing demographics and aspirations of the nation. Take a look.
British Nigerian candidates in UK elections reflect the nation's multiculturalism. Their participation brings diverse perspectives to politics, highlighting inclusivity and equal representation in Britain's evolving democratic society. At least 30 British Nigerians will contest in the UK's July 4th elections. To stand for UK Parliament, candidates must be at least 18 and a Commonwealth citizen with indefinite leave to remain in the UK. British Nigerians will be representing mainstream parties across the board, including the Labour Party, the Conservative Party and the Liberal Democrats, while the rest are from smaller parties like the Workers' Party of Britain and the Yoruba Party in the UK. Some are even contesting as independents. Jennifer Obaseki is running for the Workers' Party of Britain in Tottenham in North London. She says it's time for change in her community.
That one of the reasons I'm running is I do feel that David Lammy, who has spent more than 20 years in Tottenham, does need to move on. He's become a career politician. He's forgotten about the community. And one of the mantras of my actual campaign is community first, because we need to bring back the focus of Tottenham, which is the community.
Josiah Uche is also running for the Workers' Party of Britain in a constituency in mid-Derbyshire. He says it's about time the British Nigerian community was represented in British politics.
Everyone I've spoken to, we feel like, it's time. We currently, we don't have any, we actually underrepresented, represented here. So it's about time that obviously we put ourselves out there. So I think to show that we are part of the British community.
The next general election is set to herald the most diverse parliament ever, with record numbers of ethnic minority and female MPs, and British Nigerians are certainly at the forefront of this multicultural movement. With polls closing at 10 p.m. on Thursday, results are expected on Friday. The current Conservative government is widely expected to be defeated by Labour, with the party potentially winning a supermajority. For News Central, I'm Afia Hagan.
And joining us on the news at this time is Dr. Olushola Oni, the Yoruba Party in the UK MP candidate for Peckham constituency. It's good to have you on the show, Dr. Oni. Let's get started, right? The Yoruba Party in the UK promises fresh ideas for the electorate, but could you share some of these innovative plans with us?
Okay. Thank you very much for inviting me. The idea of having a Yoruba Party is because we needed a direct voice. Although Nigerians are in the mainstream parties, these are, if you like, indirect representation. What we offer as the Yoruba Party is direct representation. We know what is wrong, we know what we need, and it is only us that can deal with what we need. That's the whole basis of having a Yoruba Party that represents us directly. Take, for example, the question of housing. What happens here is that houses are purchased or bought or taken from people, and then the land sold to developers who then build houses that the people who used to live in Peckham could no longer live there because the prices are too high, they cannot buy, they cannot rent. In effect, they are being pushed out of Peckham to go elsewhere. Again, we have a problem of crime, but we have no police station. And Peckham is such a huge constituency that it's almost immoral not to have a police station, not to have police on the beat, either on their feet or riding bikes. So these are the sort of problems that we have as a community that we need to deal with. These are the sort of things that the mainstream cannot deal with. One of the things that I usually point out is this. If you look at what has been the problem for the last 50 years, whether you talk about immigration, the economy, the National Health Service, or climate change, the problem has not changed at all. And yet we've had Labour, we've had conservative parties. What that tells us is that they are incapable intellectually to deal with these problems.
Now,
and that new ideas are required.
Dr. Oni, we're going to come to that about the two parties, which is Labour and Tory parties. But I want to quickly touch on something, right? When someone hears Yoruba party, what comes to mind is literally Yoruba people. And your party's mission is to amplify the Yoruba voice in British politics. Does this focus solely on the Yoruba community? And what does this mean when it comes to inclusivity of all UK citizens?
Okay. if you've had a copy of our manifesto, which is this, the pledge states, and I'll read it to you. I said, I shall fight for the welfare of all Black people. Many have the Yoruba heritage from millions forcibly shipped in the transatlantic slavery from Yoruba homeland to Brazil, West Indies, Cuba, UK, USA, etc. I also said, I shall fight for the welfare of all white people. We live in the same UK bubble. It is not possible to simply look after the Yoruba as a group alone. The MP is MP for everybody. You look after everyone. And in a lot of the problems that I was describing, like the housing, like the police, it affects everyone. It doesn't just affect the Yoruba. But what we require as Yoruba people is that we actually need our own voice. We need something that can energize us, that can encourage us from our docility, because we are docile in this country.
Now, Doctor,
we accept almost. Say that again. Sorry.
We're pressed for time, right? But you raised your manifesto just then, and I just want to point some things on there. So your manifesto suggests that the Labour and Tory parties are out of touch, but your party has the answers, and that's what you said earlier on in your first submission. Now, could you elaborate on what sets your solutions apart? Because we're pressed for time.
Oh, intellectually, we are better because, for example, on the economy, the two main parties only offer you tax and spend. They want to take your money, they want to spend it. It never occurs to them that they need to generate wealth. So part of the things that we are suggesting as a party intellectually is that if you are going to spend money, you need to generate wealth. And we are making a number of suggestions on how to generate wealth linked to climate change, so that at the same time as you are generating wealth, you are also dealing with climate change, which also means that those of us in Africa, for example, we can continue to develop rather than being hampered by this idea of zero sum that people, that the developed countries are always touting about. In order for us to develop, there has to be a different attitude to climate change, for example. So that's the sort of thing we are putting across, that we have intellectual solutions to a lot of these problems, that the main parties are so stale, they are so engrossed in their jibaja, in the endless infantile debate between themselves, that they haven't had any time intellectually to deal with what the problems are. This is where we come in, that we offer solutions that are based on thinking, new ideas.
Right. Well, Dr. Oni, I have to say thank you so much for coming on. We appreciate you for doing this with us.
Thank you for inviting me. Thank you.
And that's Dr. Olushola Oni, the Yoruba Party in the UK MP candidate for Peckham constituency. You're watching news now on News Central TV. We go on short break. When we come back, there's more news, but this time in sports. Stay with us. Hey, welcome back. Now we promise to give you a bit of an update on the downpour and the flooding that have now captured the city of Lagos, major parts of the metropolis. And so joining us now to give us more update is our correspondent, who is still under the rain and just watching the events as they unfold, Bettina Onweli. Bettina, very good afternoon to you and well done. I see you still have an umbrella there. Give me an update. What's going on and where are you at the moment?
In Yaba right now, and Judith, Lagos is a total mess, chaos all around. Earlier on, you saw footages from Yanoworo, and you also saw from Agege, the end of Wemko Road, Ogba, and now we are here in Yaba on Hababakoli Road. You can see the puddles of water on the street, and we also have like some blockages that I can see on the road that could also contribute to flooding in this region. Why these are here and unattended to, I really cannot say, but these are the issues that we keep complaining about in Lagos State, and how people are not taking responsibility for keeping the drainages clean. Now, I know that we keep saying that the government needs to work and do things and make the state better, But we as individuals also have to contribute. You see people littering. Now, all of this litter that we keep complaining about are one of the reasons why we have clogged drainages and why we have floods and as well traffic in Lagos State. Some people didn't get to their places of business until 11 a.m., 12 noon today. It's a totally ridiculous situation.
I can only imagine. I mean, the videos on social media is also wild as well. We see people's homes, the ground floor is up to the chest area with water, cars submerged in water, people unable to get to their destination. I mean, persons here at the office were unable to come in as well. So it's really wild. But you make a case for civic responsibility when it comes to indigents of Lagosians and even, you know, residents as well. And I ask if it's a social problem, it's a fundamental issue. What exactly is it? Because the truth of the matter is that Lagos has also moved to ban single-use plastics as well, and we've seen that. But should as much as, you know, the residents are taking blame for this, we're pointing fingers to the residents again. The drainages, you know, as much as we're clogging it. Shouldn't it be time that we're widening this thing a bit and have ways where there are more wider collectors in this situation?
Like, while the government has their part to play, Judith, it's also a collective responsibility because, yes, we have people in government who are supposed to take care of these situations, but they cannot be everywhere. And that is why we also need to take responsibility, because the government is not in your home where your neighbor is using these plastics, whether or not they've been banned. The government cannot be in your schools, in your offices, where your colleagues are not paying attention to trash around them. So it's collective responsibility. And I think the government also needs to do more sensitization to the public. Now, this is Lagos, this is Nigeria, where we've been used to plastic almost all our lives. So we need to now sensitize people on the reasons why these plastics are no longer good for us and why we have to stay away from them.
Well, we begin as now they've given the directive. Met have come out to say it's going to be 3 days of heavy pour scattered around the entirety of the country, and we wait to see what the flooding will look out for the next 3 days. But many thanks, Bettina, and thank you so much for the hard work. We appreciate you for doing this with us. Well, we promised to bring you sports news, but unfortunately we're out of time. But not to worry, the news is going to come up. Rather, sports is coming up next with In the Game with Onyechi Obaro. But that's all at this hour on News Central, or rather on News Now. But before we go, let's take another look at some of the major stories. NIMET predicts a 3-day thunderstorm rains as workers stranded in Lagos following early morning downpour. Newly constructed 2-story building collapses in Lagos State. Tunisian authorities issue decree for presidential elections in October. Now remember that you can send us your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number now showing on the screen. And while you're at it, make sure to follow us on social media. We're at News Central TV. You can also watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, or stream us live on YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I'm Judith, Atibi.